The eviction notice is taped to my door like a scarlet letter. Final warning in bold red letters. I peel it off with shaking hands, adding it to the pile of overdue bills on my kitchen counter. My 2-year-old daughter is crying in her high chair, and I can smell that my 6-month-old needs changing from his bouncy seat. This wasn't supposed to be my life. 5 years ago, I was living in a beautiful house that had been in my ex-husband's family for generations. I had a husband who adored me, financial security, and a future that seemed golden. Now I'm a single mother of 2, broke, abandoned by the man I threw everything away for, and about to be homeless. My name is Jessica, and I'm 30 years old. This is the story of how I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I got bored, because I wanted excitement, because I thought the grass was greener with my best friend's husband. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was poison ivy, and I'm still covered in the rash. Let me take you back to when I was 18 and thought I knew everything about love. I met Daniel at a college party. He wasn't like the other guys. Loud, drunk, grabbing at any girl who walked by. He was sitting in the corner reading a book. At a party. Who does that? Before Daniel, my life had been predictable, safe. My parents planned everything, my school, my activities, my college major. I was the good girl who never stepped out of line, never dated the bad boys my friends whispered about, never had a rebellious phase. While Katie was sneaking out to meet guys with motorcycles and tattoos, I was studying for SATs and organizing bake sales. "Good book?" I asked, genuinely curious. He looked up with these warm brown eyes and smiled. "Better than the music." I laughed and sat next to him. We talked for hours that night about everything and nothing. He was 20, studying engineering, already planning his future with the kind of focus I'd never seen in guys our age. He had goals, ambition, but also this sweetness that made me feel like I was the only girl in the world when he looked at me. Sometimes I wonder if I fell for him or for the safety he represented. The guarantee that I'd never be one of those girls crying over some player who wouldn't text back. With Daniel, I went from my parents' carefully planned life straight into his arms. No wild phase, no heartbreak, no stories to laugh about later. I thought I was lucky. Turns out I was just postponing my stupidity. "I don't usually do parties," he admitted. "My roommate dragged me here." "I'm glad he did," I said, and meant it. He asked for my number with this nervous energy that was adorable. Like he couldn't believe I'd say yes. I was his first everything. First real girlfriend, first kiss, first time. The power of that, of being someone's first and only, was intoxicating. We fell hard and fast. Daniel was everything I'd been taught to want. Stable, devoted, ambitious, but family-oriented. He'd bring me flowers every week, not expensive ones. Just wildflowers he'd pick on his way to see me. He'd study with me even though we had different majors, just to spend time together. When I got sick, he'd bring me soup, his mom's recipe that he'd call her to get right. "You're going to make someone a great husband someday," I told him once. "Just someone?" he asked, hurt flashing in his eyes. "No," I said quickly. "Me. You're going to make me a great husband." The relief on his face should have shown me how much I meant to him, how much power I had to hurt him. But I was 18 and drunk on being loved so completely. We married when I was 22, right after graduation. The wedding was small but perfect. Daniel cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. His vows were handwritten, talking about how I'd changed his life, given him purpose, made him believe in forever. Mine were generic ones I'd found online. That should have been a sign. The early years were good, really good. Daniel worked hard at his engineering firm, getting promoted steadily. I worked in marketing for a while, but when he got a significant raise, we decided I could stay home and focus on starting a family. "Are you sure?" I'd asked. "I don't want you to feel like you're carrying all the burden. Taking care of our home, our future kids, that's not you being a burden. That's you being my partner," he said. "We're a team." But we couldn't get pregnant. Month after month of negative tests. Daniel never blamed me, never made me feel broken. He'd hold me while I cried and whisper that we'd figure it out together. We started looking into adoption, fertility treatments, whatever it took. "I just want a family with you," he'd say. "However that happens." Then, miraculously, it did happen. 6 years into our marriage, I was pregnant. Daniel literally got on his knees and kissed my stomach when I showed him the test. He cried harder than I did. But I miscarried at 12 weeks. The grief should have brought us closer. For Daniel, it did. He became even more attentive, more loving. He took time off work to be with me. He found us a therapist. He did everything right. A week after it happened, I was sitting in our dark bedroom, hadn't showered in days. Daniel brought me soup, his mother's recipe again, perfectly seasoned, served on the good china to make it special. He sat beside me, rubbing my back. "We'll get through this," he whispered. "Together. However long it takes." "Aren't you angry?" I asked, my voice raw. "Why would I be angry?" "At God, at the universe, at me." My body failed us. I wanted to scream. I lost our baby. "Oh, honey, no. These things happen. It's nobody's fault." His kindness, his perfect patience, it made me want to throw the soup at the wall. "Just yell," I screamed internally. "Blame me. Do something ugly so I don't feel so alone in my own ugliness. Show me you're human, not some saint." But he just kept rubbing my back, kept being perfect, and I kept drowning in grief with a life preserver I couldn't hold on to because my hands were full of rage. That was the beginning of the end, though I didn't see it then. We started double dating with my best friend from childhood, Katie, and her husband, Connor. Katie had always been the wilder one, the one who dated bad boys and lived for drama. She'd had the life I'd skipped, the heartbreaks, the passion, the stories that made everyone gasp at girls' nights. "He's not my usual type," she'd laughed at her wedding. "But a girl's got to grow up sometime." Connor was everything Daniel wasn't. Smooth where Daniel was earnest, flashy where Daniel was practical. He drove a Mercedes and wore expensive suits and always had some story about a deal he'd closed or a client he'd charmed. The thing about Daniel, he had his flaws. He'd reorganize the dishwasher after I loaded it. He couldn't sleep if the closet door was open even a crack. He'd get this tiny eye twitch when stressed, but refused to admit anything was wrong. Small things, human things, but after 8 years they grated like sandpaper on sunburn. "Your husband's a saint for putting up with my wife," Connor joked one night at dinner. "All her crazy stories from before we met." Daniel laughed politely, but I saw him squeeze my hand under the table. A silent, "I love you just as you are." For some reason that annoyed me. Stop being so understanding, I thought. Be jealous, be possessive, be something other than perfect. We started hanging out with them more. Dinners, movies, weekend trips. Daniel and Connor found common ground in sports and video games. Katie and I would roll our eyes at our boring husbands, while secretly I started noticing how Connor's eyes would linger on me. "You look beautiful tonight," he said once when we were alone getting drinks at the bar. Katie and Daniel were back at the table. "Thanks," I said, feeling a flutter I hadn't felt in years. Daniel's a lucky man. Katie's a lucky woman. He smiled, but it wasn't the kind of smile you give your wife's best friend. "Is she, though?" I should have shut it down right there. Should have told Daniel, should have distanced myself. Instead, I smiled back. The flirting started innocently. Inside jokes, lingering hugs, texts about random things that had nothing to do with our spouses. I told myself it was harmless. We were just friends. One night, Katie pulled me aside at a dinner party. "Be careful," she said quietly, wine heavy on her breath. "What do you mean?" "Connor, just be careful." She looked like she wanted to say more but didn't. I should have listened to the warning in her eyes. "You seem happier lately," Daniel noticed. "I'm glad. I was worried after everything." The miscarriage. He still couldn't say the word. "Yeah, I'm feeling better," I lied. I wasn't feeling better. I was feeling alive. The attention from Connor, the secret thrill of our flirtation, it made me forget about the emptiness inside me, made me forget that I had a husband who would move mountains for me. 1 month after we'd started double dating, Connor messaged me, "Can't stop thinking about you." I stared at that message for 3 hours, typed replies and deleted them, turned my phone off, turned it back on. It's just a text, I told myself, just words on a screen. "We can't," I finally wrote. "I know," he wrote back. "But I can't help it." "Delete the messages," my conscience screamed. "Tell Daniel, tell Katie, stop this now." "Just coffee," I rationalized out loud to my empty kitchen. "Just talking. What's the harm in talking?" "Me neither," I typed. 3 days later, we met for coffee. Just talking, I'd promised myself. We talked for 3 hours, about nothing, about everything. About how Katie had changed, become boring. About how Daniel was a good guy, but... "But what?" Connor asked. "But sometimes good isn't enough," I admitted. A week later, it wasn't coffee. It was lunch. Then drinks. Then sitting in his car in a parking garage, not touching but wanting to. "This is wrong," I said. "I know," he said, and kissed me anyway. The first time we slept together was in my house, in the bed I shared with Daniel. He was at work, Katie was at a spa day. Connor showed up at my door, and I let him in knowing exactly what would happen. Afterward, as he got dressed, I waited for the guilt to hit. Instead, I just felt powerful, desired, like I was the star of my own dramatic movie instead of a bit player in Daniel's perfectly planned life. "This can't happen again," I said. "Whatever you want," Connor said, kissing me goodbye. "I'll wait for you to decide." It happened again, and again, and again. We got sloppy. Started using pet names in texts. Little sister and little brother. We thought we were so clever. Started taking more risks. Hotel rooms in the middle of the day, my house when Daniel was working late on projects. "Coast is clear, ready to play?" I texted him once, high on the danger of it all. There were moments of genuine happiness with Connor. Moments where I convinced myself this was real love. The passion, the excitement, the way he made me feel 18 again. He'd surprise me with expensive gifts Daniel would call wasteful. Take me to restaurants Daniel would say were overpriced. Make me feel desired in ways I'd forgotten existed. Meanwhile, Daniel noticed nothing. Or so I thought. He'd come home from work, kiss me hello, ask about my day. I'd lie with increasing ease. He'd tell me about his projects, his plans for our future, how he was saving for fertility treatments or adoption. "We're going to have our family," he'd promise. "I know it." I'd smile and nod while thinking about Connor's hands on my body that afternoon. One night I almost told him, almost confessed everything. He was loading the dishwasher wrong again, and instead of being annoyed, I felt this wave of tenderness. This is Daniel, I thought. You're Daniel. What are you doing? Hey, I started. I need to tell you something. He turned, concerned. What's wrong? I looked at his face, open, trusting, ready to solve whatever problem I presented. I love you, I said instead. I love you too, he said, pulling me close. He smelled like home, like safety, like everything I was destroying. I cried into his chest and he held me, probably thinking it was about the baby we'd lost, not the marriage I was murdering. The guilt came in waves, but I'd push it down. Daniel was too perfect, too predictable. He brought me flowers every Friday, the same wildflowers from when we dated. We had sex on the same schedule. He said, I love you at the same times every day. Where was the passion, the excitement? With Connor, everything was passionate, explosive. He made me feel 18 again instead of 28 and stuck in suburban purgatory. I'm thinking about leaving Katie, Connor said one afternoon. We could be together for real. I need to think about it, I said, but I was already imagining it. The drama of it all. Running away together, starting fresh. Thinking about trying for a baby with Daniel, I texted him later, not sure why I needed to tell him. No way, he responded immediately. That should have been my first clue that Connor wasn't the upgrade I thought he was, but I was too deep in the fantasy to see it. 5 months into the affair, Daniel came home early from work. I was in the shower washing Connor off me. When I came out, Daniel was sitting on our bed, staring at nothing. Hey baby, I said, my heart racing. You're home early. Yeah, he said quietly. Mom's sick. I'm going to stay with her for a few days. Relief flooded through me. He didn't know. Oh no, is she okay? Should I come? No, it's fine. I'll be back in a few days. He packed quickly, barely looking at me. Kissed me goodbye with lips that felt cold. As soon as his car left the driveway, I texted Connor. He's gone for a few days. Come over? What I didn't know was that Daniel had already seen everything, that Katie had already shown him the screenshots, that he was gathering evidence while I thought I was getting away with it all. The divorce papers came out of nowhere, served at both our houses on the same day. I called Daniel, hysterical, begging him to talk to me. When he finally answered, his voice was different, cold, done. Sign the papers, Jessica. Baby, please, we can work this out. Ready to play, right? He said quietly. Well, game over. The pregnancy test had been positive that morning. Perfect timing, universe. Really perfect. I'm pregnant, I blurted out. Silence, then, congratulations. I'm sure Connor will be thrilled. But Connor wasn't thrilled. Connor was being served his own papers. Connor's meal ticket with Katie was being revoked, and suddenly I wasn't his exciting escape anymore. I was a complication. We'll figure it out, he said when I told him, but his eyes were already looking for exits. I fought the divorce, hoping the pregnancy would change things. Praying it was Daniel's baby, that we'd been careful enough with protection, that maybe this could fix everything I'd broken. The DNA test said otherwise. 0.0% chance Daniel was the father. Seeing that number, seeing the look in Daniel's eyes when he read it, not anger, just disappointment and pity. That's when I finally understood what I'd done. I'd had a man who loved me completely, who would have given me the world, and I'd thrown him away for thrills that were as fake as Connor's promises. Connor married me out of necessity. We were both broke, both disgraced, both clinging to each other like drowning rats. He lost his job 6 months later when he tried to seduce his boss's wife. Because of course he did. A cheater doesn't stop cheating just because they marry their affair partner. Now I'm pregnant with his second child, working 2 minimum wage jobs while he drinks away what little money we have. He compares me to other women constantly. Tells me I've let myself go. Accuses me of cheating whenever I'm 5 minutes late from work, which is ironic considering he's the one sliding into DMs of every woman who'll give him attention. I know Daniel's doing well. He's dating Katie now, my former best friend who had the guts to tell him the truth. They have kids. They took them to Hawaii with Connor's alimony money. The poetic justice of it all would be funny if it wasn't my life that was the punchline. Sometimes I drive by the house that should have been mine. The family house Daniel inherited, where we were supposed to raise our children. I see toys in the yard now. See Katie's car in the driveway. See the life I threw away because I was bored. Sometimes I daydream about messaging Daniel, apologizing, asking if he ever thinks about what we had. But I know the answer. He moved on. I just moved out. The baby's crying again. Connor's not home. He's at the bar, probably telling some woman how his evil wife trapped him. I heat up formula I can barely afford and think about Daniel bringing me soup when I was sick, about wildflowers every Friday, about a man who cried with joy when he thought we were having a baby. I did this, all of it. I was young, selfish, and stupid. I confused stability with boredom, devotion with weakness, faithfulness with lack of passion. I thought I deserved more excitement, more drama, more everything. Now I have all the drama I could want. An eviction notice, an alcoholic husband who cheats. 2 kids who'll grow up in poverty because their mother couldn't appreciate what she had. Maybe I'll break the cycle for them. Maybe I'll teach them what real love looks like by showing them what it doesn't. Maybe that's the only redemption available to me now. The worst part? Sometimes Daniel and Katie run into me at the store. He's always polite, asks how the kids are doing, never gloats, never shows satisfaction at how far I've fallen. Just that same disappointment in his eyes, like I'm a cautionary tale he wishes had ended differently. Katie doesn't acknowledge me at all. Fair enough. I slept with her husband and destroyed both our marriages. The fact that she ended up with the actual prize while I got the booby prize doesn't make what I did any less horrible. Karma's a bitch, Connor slurred at me last week. If you hadn't fucked around, we'd both still be sitting pretty. He's wrong, though. Karma's not a bitch. Karma's a mirror, showing you exactly who you are through the consequences of your choices. I was a bitch. Karma just made sure everyone else could see it, too. I loved Daniel, I really did. I just loved the idea of being desired more. Loved the thrill of the forbidden more. Loved myself more than I loved him. Now, I'm 30, divorced, broke, and tied forever to a man who sees me as nothing but a burden. My children will grow up watching their parents hate each other. They'll never know what real love looks like because I couldn't recognize it when I had it. Daniel's love was quiet, steady, reliable as sunrise. I mistook that for boring. Connor's love was loud, chaotic, burning bright and fast like a match. I mistook that for passion. Now I sit in the ashes of the bridge I burned, holding a baby I can't afford, and listening to silence where love used to live. Daniel's reading bedtime stories. Katie's beside him. Me? I got exactly what I deserved. This isn't a redemption story, this is a warning.